Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of The Launch. In episode 2 we're going to talk about defining your target market. So we're not going to get too complicated here, but if you don't know what a target market is very simply the people that you're trying to sell your goods or services to and that you've identified as someone that you want to create your brand around. It's important to do that because your brand is not going to be about you. It's not going to be your personal personality. It will be about what your target market wants from your company. So your target market is really going to determine what your company should be saying, because essentially you want to please your target market. So in the case of Sammy Skateboards, our target market may be people between the ages of 14 and 25, we'll say males, and we'll say that they have an interest in extreme sports. In the case of the salon, we're going to have probably a more female demographic there, depending on how expensive the services are that they provide. We may have a more affluent female that's going in there, possibly raising the age of the target market. So we may be targeting women ages 25 to 65 for a salon, but when you're speaking to 14 to 25-year-old males about skateboards, and when you're talking to 25 to 65-year-old women about salons, there's a very different messaging that has to take place there. So you really need to figure out who your target market is, because that's going to affect who your brand is, and you're going to want to make sure that your brand speaks specifically to that target market. In the cases of the salon and the skateboard, they're very specific. In the case of a plumbing company, it might be a little bit more generalized. So at a minimum, I like to break it down by 3 categories. You want the age range that you're kind of looking for, the sex if it's necessary. If it's a unisex product, that's cool too. And then the other thing would be the interest. So like for a plumber, there's not a whole lot of interest there that you could tie onto, but you could at least say that they're homeowners. So some sort of common thread there where you can say all of my potential clientele are this. And once you've built that target market and built that personality of who you're marketing to, it will really help you shape your brand, because then you're trying to fulfill the needs of this person. A lot of times I'll give my target market, I'll create a fake character name. Maybe I'll call him Dan, and Dan is a 15-year-old skateboarder, and create the whole personality, and then you really want to talk to Dan and build that personality. So who is your target market? And who are you speaking to with your marketing? And do you have multiple different target markets that you need to communicate with differently? Those are the questions that you need to be asking right now. So really define who your business and who your service or your product can help, and who it can't help, because just as importantly, for knowing who you are targeting is, knowing who is out of your target market and who you really don't need to speak to, because by not speaking to everyone, you increase the effectiveness of your message to that small group that you are speaking to. So that is, in a nutshell, what your target market is. Again, break it down by age, sex, and some sort of common thread at least at a minimum. You can get into, if you're a local company, you can get into the location that they live and stuff like that. If you can't buy products online from your company or things like that, there's a lot of other things that could be involved with this. But at a minimum, go with those 3, and define a target market, because that's going to affect who your brand is and what you should be saying to your consumers.